I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that happened in the beginning. When I graduated in 1961, there were no girls' sports in the public schools. And so when I came to the Upper Peninsula, it was my goal to try and get girls to be involved in interscholastic sports. Well, I was a new kid on the block, and I was told by women that no, we cannot have girls competing in sports. It will, and I quote, ruin them. Well, I had been a competitive golfer and figure skater, so it was kind of a shock to me. So it wasn't until fall of 1964, when we moved to the Copper Country, that girls could participate in sport days. Now, as it says in my resume, but a sport day was when you could get together with girls from other schools, but you could not have a winner. It was just participation. And so we had several of them. Because of the media, the interest in girls' sports grew. And so track was one of the first things that a lot of schools put together. Unfortunately, there weren't a lot of women coaches then, and so most of the teams were coached by men. And track and field probably grew faster than anything, probably because of the equipment and everything was there. And so coming back from that first Women's Institute of Girls and Women's Sports, the clinic that I put on, it was right over here in Escanaba, and I see that the terrace is still there. That's where it was. And so most of the coaches that came to that clinic were men. Again, there were very few women coaches. Gymnastics started actually in Iron Mountain at a Catholic school. The coach there and the coach from Lantz started a gymnastic little meets together in 69 to 65. I joined them in 1966 along with Republic and two more coaches from the Iron Mountain area. We had to get permission from the Michigan High School Athletic Association to start a gymnastic program in the UP. And with the help of Lowell Meyer, who was the gymnastic coach at Northern, he helped us. Because we had to train judges and do things that we wouldn't have any experience in. And so the gymnastic program grew. Calumet and Negaunee started into it, and Marquette, and then Escanaba and Menominee. There were 17 schools at one point in gymnastics, but a lot of them dropped out because they either didn't have a coach to do it or they didn't have the equipment, which was very expensive. So gymnastic grew, and that was sort of the beginning of girls' sports. We also started in 1966 the Upper Peninsula Women's Coaches Association. I'll bet a lot of you didn't know we had that. It was mainly the 5 gymnastic coaches, plus a few others, a few track and field coaches, and a lot of basketball coaches. Basketball was starting in the late 60s. It started before Title IX. And so that organization was there to try and promote girls' sports and for us to get together and kind of help us in the way of developing it. So that was one of the beginnings. You know, when I went to Lake Linden, I had to go to the board and get permission for those sport days. And I was fortunate that they were a progressive board that let me do that. They also let me do something else that a lot of you probably don't know that happened. 5 months later, I became pregnant, and women did not teach when they were pregnant. So I had to get permission to continue teaching and coaching. So that was another thing that was sort of archaic back in those 60s. After Title IX, the Michigan High School Athletic Association decided to add gymnastics. And so they flew me to Lansing to their committee meetings to ask me how we did it in the Upper Peninsula. Imagine that. We were first. Another thing that happened later in the 70s is the athletic directors decided to take over hiring the judges and making what's the word I want to use, scheduling our matches. Well, my husband, who was an athletic director at the time, some of you know him, came to me and acted like I didn't want to do this, didn't like it. And my only response to him was, it's about time, and when are you going to run the meets? Which they never did. So anyway, I'm not getting into a lot of the details of some of these things, but the thing that I want to emphasize is that I wish you all could have seen the joy, the pure joy and excitement of these young girls who at last had an opportunity to compete. And it wasn't easy. There were still a lot of people that didn't believe in it. And so they had to learn to believe in themselves. So that was the best part of being a start in all this gymnastics and track and field. And I hope I haven't left anybody out. I wasn't really familiar with the far eastern end, but we did have basketball coaches from there in that organization, probably after Title IX in the middle 70s kind of dissolved. So thank you very much for letting me explain a few things to you, and enjoy your evening.
I'm going to have you stay here for a second.